Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the media. Welcome to the PVP Weekly Press Conference. With me, as usual, is our General Secretary. We have the GS will be reading 4 statements, after which we'll be taking questions. GS.
Morning, everyone, again. The first statement reads as follows. The People's Progressive Party expresses its deepest condolences to the family and relatives of Lord Avebury, who recently passed away. Lord Avebury once led a prestigious team of international observers at the elections held in Guyana on December 15, 1980. Lord Avebury's team of observers at the 1980 elections was a groundbreaking event in the struggle for free and fair elections in Guyana. The Bonham government did not cooperate with the Avebury mission during its stay in Guyana, and in a statement issued on December 16, 1980, Lord Avebury stated that the government, quote, lost an opportunity of demonstrating to the world the genuineness of its intention to hold free and fair elections, end of quote. At a press conference held in Georgetown on December 16th, Lord Avebury had stated, quote, despite the fact that we have not been awarded recognition by the authorities, our experience, especially on polling day, was of a warm and friendly reception by the vast majority of Guyanese people, end of quote. Following his team's observation of the 1980 elections, Lord Avebury had further stated that based on their findings and the researches conducted on the process leading up to elections, quote, we conclude that the worst fears expressed by the Guyanese people regarding the violations of the electoral process have been confirmed, end of quote. His conclusions were based on the following. 1. Voters in many instances were intimidated and physically prevented from voting for opposition parties. 2. The staff of the whole polling process appeared to be active supporters of the PNC. In some areas, there were many polling stations adjacent to or very near PNC offices. Some polling stations were in the private residences of PNC activists and candidates. Some were in police stations, one at least with an armed guard at a locked gate. Lord Avebury further stated that the military presence in certain areas was intimidating. The boxes were collected by military personnel who prevented accredited officials of the opposition, sometimes by force or the threat of force, from accompanying or following the boxes. Military personnel refused accredited representatives of opposition parties access to the count at gunpoint in some cases. That the forcible expulsion of the opposition agents from the polling places where ballot boxes were held, and the delay of at least 15 hours in the announcing of the first returns of the count undermines the credibility of this process. As the PPP recalls with deep respect and honor the significant and historic contribution made by Lord Avebury and his team to the long and difficult struggle for free and fair elections in Guyana, which culminated in the historic victory of the PPC in the 1992 general and regional elections, it is imperative that Guyanese draw lessons from the conclusions documented by Lord Avebury as we prepare for the upcoming local government elections and later regional and general elections. The struggle for free and fair elections is not over. The experience drawn from the occurrences that took place during the May 11, 2015 elections is a good and recent example of the challenges the Guyanese electorate face for future elections in Guyana. The best tribute Guyanese can pay to Lord Avebury is to ensure that the gains won for free and fair elections are not eroded, and to build on the successes to ensure that never again would rigged elections be perpetrated against the wishes of the Guyanese electorate. Next statement. The People's Progressive Party welcomed the ruling by Chief Justice Ian Chang that Ministers Scott and Felix cannot sit in the National Assembly as unelected members or technocrats, since their names were not extracted from the APNU-AFC top-up lists of candidates. The PVP considers the court's ruling as consistent with the laws of Guyana and a vindication of the party's view that the seating of the two ministers of the APNU and AFC is an electoral travesty and in violation of the Constitution and the Representation of the People's Act. The party recalls that this ruling by the court joins other previous rulings by the court to give guidance to the Parliament on constitutional matters. On all previous occasions, it was because of the obstructive and nuisance value behavior of the APNU-AFC that the court was called upon to rule on these contentious matters sparked by the APNU-AFC's unruly horse in the National Assembly. It is to be recalled that Minister of State Joe Harmon had quote-unquote dared former Attorney General Anil Nandalal to quote-unquote do what he does best and to move to the courts to have the two APNU-AFC trespassers removed from sitting in the National Assembly. Moreover, it's to be recalled that Mr. Basil Williams, the current Attorney General, at the preliminary stages worked overtime at filibustering with a view to delaying and not having the case heard on the grounds that the PPP's claim was erroneous and should instead be challenged by way of an elections petition. Further, it is to be recalled that the PPP had called out the clerk of the National Assembly, alerting and advising him of the unconstitutional nature of the decision by the APNU-AFC, but to no avail. The party feels vindicated that the court has upheld the legitimacy and correctness in law of its position on the matter. It is expected that the Speaker of the National Assembly will take guidance from the court's ruling on the matter and have the APNU-AFC be guided accordingly to have the two ministerial squatters removed from the National Assembly. The next statement is as follows. The People's Progressive Party welcomed the ruling by Chief Justice Ian Chang to the effect that the court could now proceed with the substantive matters related to the elections petition filed by the PPP to challenge the outcome of the May 11, 2015 regional and general elections. It is to be recalled that the interlocutory application or summonses had been issued to determine whether the court should proceed with the substantive matters relative to the elections petition. In other words, to dismiss the elections petition. The party views the ruling as a triumph of justice for the Guyanese electorate and looks forward with great anticipation to the commencement of the proceedings on the substantive elections petition. Finally, the People's Progressive Party denounces the arrogant and indisciplined behavior of the APNU-AFC councillors at statutory meetings of the Regional Democratic Council, RDC, Region 5. The spurious explanation offered for this despicable behavior at statutory meetings of the RDC is given as, quote-unquote, disrespect towards President Granger. As regards a function to hand over green and yellow party-painted buses to supporters of the APNU-AFC in that region. The PPP supports fully and unequivocally the stand of the regional chairman that he was never ever formally invited to the function, and therefore there is no need to apologize to anyone. the uncouth behavior and bad manners of the Little Caesars in those regions controlled by the PVPC is now becoming a pattern across the country and is manifested in the behavior of some REOs and councillors. The party will continue to expose the disruptive and vexatious behavior of those REOs and APNU AFC councillors, and at the same time will give all the support necessary to those regional chairmen and councillors who, notwithstanding the obstacles placed in their way, are determined to press ahead with the developmental initiatives for the benefit of the electorate in their respective regions. Thank you.
There you had the statements. Looking for questions. Who will be the first? Madam, we got.
John Ryan, Pension News. Question of the statement. The audit report into the purchase of the water cannon back in.
We're not on that as yet.
Let's
Let's
deal
deal with the
let's deal with the
statements first.
statement.
Yeah, I'd say it's an off statement.
All right. Sir Adam Harris,
Mm.
you described Felix and Scott as squatters,
Yeah,
although they were duly appointed.
wrongly duly appointed.
That might be so, but the court had to make that decision.
Mm.
Is it therefore a sign of disrespect for you to describe them as squatters?
No, I think they describe us as all kind of things in Parliament. If you were to follow the proceedings in Parliament, you would be surprised to hear the kind of descriptions that they give to PPPC MPs. So I don't see anything wrong with that. We're not in a Sunday school. We're in politics. And therefore one has to expect in the rumble and tumble of politics such things. So I don't consider disrespect. When they prevented me from speaking in the Parliament, what was that? When they wrongfully accused me of doing a lot of things which I never did. What was that?
On the elections petition,
Mm.
we are aware of some of the issues you raised. For example, you want to challenge the results on the fake statements of poll, among other things.
Yes.
But the chairman of the Elections Commission at his last press conference actually more than hinted that your party was responsible for placing this fake statements of polls in the mix-up. Are you still going to go ahead with that aspect of the petition?
I don't think we will be. We will not be bothered by Sir Bali's claim. It sounds as though it's grounded in some degree of madness, because I don't know how PVP people could get their hands on statements of poll or fake statements of poll. They saw them in the process. Where's the evidence that he has to attest to that claim? Yes, the PPP will press ahead with its. Sir Bali is not the judge and the jury in this matter. He's free to express his opinion, but we are also free to express his opinion as an element of madness. So the court will proceed as was determined with hearing the substantive elections petition.
And one of the arguments is that a lot of the claims in the petition represent what people call hearsay evidence, and hearsay evidence isn't applicable in court. Do you agree that most of what you're going to court with is hearsay? That somebody said this and that somebody said that and all that?
I don't agree with anything of that sort, and in any case, the court will decide and determine whether it's hearsay or not hearsay.
Next. Yeah, Eddie.
Yes, on the question of the Moran motion petition, what is the party's,
In the case of the which one?
the Moran petition,
Oh,
elections petition?
yeah.
What is the party's expectation, given that we've had precedents in the past, where rulings have been made by a respected member of the High Court, who has resigned, as Justice Chan, I understand, is shortly to embark this matter proceeds under a new judge, who most likely will be influenced by the political directorate. I'm just trying to be realistic and get feedback from you on that aspect.
Well, I don't want to comment further on the matter. The statement that I read was very explicit and to the point. The fact of the matter is that this matter remains in the courts at this point in time, and the most that we will want to say at this stage is that we expect that the court would proceed with the substantive matters in respect to the petition.
Sir, history also shows that political parties have a way of sometimes ignoring the rulings of court. We go as far back as 1962, the Houston elections petition. The PPP was deemed to have lost the seat. They didn't give it up. More recently, the Linden vote recount, the PPP was deemed to have lost, and you didn't give up your parliamentary seat. What would be the party's reaction this time around if the government, the APNU, AFC, decides to ignore the High Court ruling?
Well, if the APNU FC decides to ignore the High Court ruling, it will be in contempt of the court. Simple as that. In respect to the matter that you raised with Linden, I do not recall whether the election petition was filed to debate or to dispute that question, that matter. No.
It was a court challenge.
There wasn't anything of that nature, nor did the court rule that Mr. Sam Hines is wrongfully seated in the parliament. And in respect to the 1964 matter that you recall, well, there's a lot of debate on that matter. I don't want to go into that right now. There's a lot of history related to that. But the point I want to make is that so long as an elections petition is filed on any matter related to elections and the court rules accordingly, then those rulings must be upheld, lest the person or parties be viewed in contempt of court.
Your reaction to the fact that your party actually ignored this ruling of the court?
Which ruling?
The 67-64 ruling. The Houston by-election.
You know, you want to choose incidents in history that
yeah,
suit you. When I raise incident of history that is reflective of the PP position, you just ignore it and don't publish it. But we have recent cases also where the court ruled on matters in relation to the budget. It ruled on matters in relation to my speaking in the parliament, and it ruled on a couple of other matters. And as far as I could recall, the PNC never respected it either. So, what is this, a quid pro quo?
Yes, any other question on the statement? Statement. All right.
Yes, on the statement, the audit report into the purchase of the water cannon while you were home here to it highlighted certain things. For instance, that there was no consultation done and there was a difference in the reported price versus what was actually paid. What is your response to that?
First of all, let me say that the then opposition never appreciated the fact that a water cannon was needed in this country. From day one, they rejected the whole idea of a water cannon being introduced in public order matters. And they carried a campaign, particularly the Kaicho News, carried a consistent and persistent campaign against the efficacy of a water cannon in relation to police operations treating with public order. Well, they have taken it a step further now. They have, probably on the basis of this pressure that they have been subjected to, that is the government, that they've been subjected to through the Kaicho News on the water cannon, they have solicited an audit in respect to no other piece of equipment other than the water cannon. But I can tell you, because I have had access to the information, that there are lots of other pieces of equipment costing millions, if not billions of dollars, lying down at the force headquarters, which have never even come out of the crates, which I have had cause to raise with the police about why these pieces of expensive equipment are still lying in crates and never used. Some probably reach a stage where they are of no use any longer, because these are pieces of equipment that ought to be kept in air-conditioned facilities. As regards consultation, they are dead wrong. They are dead wrong. Not everything that is discussed between a sitting Minister of Home Affairs and the leadership of the police force is made public. Mr. Ramjatan, you can ask him next time you see him how many things are discussed between himself and the sitting Commissioner of Police that are brought out in the public. That matter was a matter of discussion between myself and the then Commissioner of Police, Mr. Henry Green. I know that there are certain officers, and you know, sometimes when we speak about officers, we refer to constables and corporals. Those people are not police officers. Police officers are people who are in khaki upwards. These are the officers of the police force. So there are certain officers in the force, including Mr. Ramnarain, who never wanted the water cannon, because he in particular and others did not have a say in the matter. For me, the major say on such matters between a sitting Minister of Home Affairs and a sitting Minister of Public Security is between that minister and the Commissioner of Police, because the minister ought to consult solely with the Commissioner of Police and not go below the Commissioner of Police to discuss such matters. So it was fit and proper purchase or procurement that was settled on the basis of discussions between myself and the then Commissioner of Police. If the other ranks were not brought into the picture by the then Commissioner of Police, that's an internal police matter. But as far as I'm aware, it is a matter that was fully discussed and ventilated between myself and Mr. Green, and then taken to the Cabinet.
I want to add the report, sir. Oh, sorry.
Just a follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference in prices?
Well, I don't have any idea about the difference in prices, because those pricing matters is usually a matter between the permanent secretary and the relevant officers at the Guyana Police Force. I have little or no say on the question of pricing. That is strictly a matter, because once it is in the budget, and the price is in the budget, the price was always in the budget, then it is a matter for the police and the then permanent secretary, may her soul rest in peace, to settle. But there are many other pieces of things that were purchased by the police. You know, you had this, what you call this pleasure boat.
Yeah.
You had this pleasure boat that was bought without the knowledge of the Ministry of Home Affairs. It was bought without the knowledge of the Ministry of Home Affairs, had in the budget money to procure a boat, but not a pleasure boat to go cruising. This was a boat that was expected to go after smugglers and persons engaged in drug trafficking. What we eventually found that was imported was a pleasure boat, and there were certain people in the force who received some kickbacks from the purchase of this boat. Eventually, the boat had to be abandoned, and I don't know where it is right now, to tell you the truth.
Sounds like we like the money. You don't charge nobody.
I think I spoke about that matter before.
I can't remember.
Well, if there's any charges to be done, it's to the police to charge themselves, because they were the ones that were engaged in that activity. They should be surcharged for that.
The Walter Rodney Commission, sir, the report is reportedly out in the public, although it was never released. First of all, your reaction to the indecency of such a leak. And when we talk about that, we can also talk about what we have seen of the report, which seemed to have ignored evidence that did not find favor with the organizers of the commission or with some of the commissioners who exhibited bias.
So what's the question? You're making a statement.
No,
What's
the
the
question
question?
is your reaction to one, the indecent leak of the report, and two, your reaction to the what is said to be contained in the report, which suggests that the commissioners ignored evidence that did not suit the organizers of the conference, of the COI, and the very commissioners who exhibited bias.
Comrade, you know, certain media houses should refrain from talking about quote-unquote indecent leaks. When they get possession of certain documents which were never made public, and they leak it, they don't ever mention the word indecent. For them, it is decent for them to leak reports that they receive. But in cases where they don't receive the report, it's indecent as far as they're concerned. How many reports have we not seen leaked in certain sections of the media without it being officially released? There are tons of them. There are tons of them. Even up to there's recent vintage of certain reports from the audits, quote-unquote, that are being done that have been leaked to the media. This one that this gentleman just mentioned about the auditing of the water cannon, where's the official report? There's no official report, but there appears to be a reporting that's been leaked. Was that indecent, or is that indecent? So, you know, we have to be careful that we don't carry out double standards in respect to what is decent, what is indecent, what was hastily published, or what was not hastily published, because we can't pick and choose on this. We can't pick and choose on this. The PPP will officially issue a statement later on in the week in this matter, because we haven't seen, the PPP, we haven't seen any report so far. We haven't received any document so far. Okay? But we are following the media based on, apparently, their possession of reports which appears to be authentic, And later on in the week, depending on how events unfold, the party will issue a statement on the matter.
But have you got reports that the COI report was very selective in its conclusion?
I can't judge that because I haven't seen the report.
Yes.
But the media could pick and choose whatever they want to carry based on what they may have in their possession. And the question is, why is the government taking so long to put it on the GINA website? Well, whatever, they should release it to the public. The public money was spent on this report, and the public deserves to see the contents of the report. So the longer they dilly-dally with this report, trying to make up their minds what to do with it, always thinking that the opposition will take political mileage from it, well, naturally that is what is going to happen. But the longer they dilly-dally on issuing the report, the more speculation will increase, and those who have in their possession, allegedly, copies of the report will continue to use it. They have a newspaper to sell. And they have workers to pay too. So, yeah.
Yes, yes, oh, so go ahead. Yes, concerning the Caricester accident, the pile-up accident.
Yeah.
Two weeks ago, we issued a statement here calling for official inquiry.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, there's been an announcement of inquest. Does the party look at this as being sufficient, as being adequate, given the fact that this is a security matter, and there is the recourse, or there is an alternative of going to the parliament, there is a security subcommittee, and taking this matter, even though the inquest has been declared, because people are asking what is the feedback, what is happening concerning this matter, and the party did take a position. What is your take now, given the fact that the Water Rodney Commission is already creating a stir
Mm-hmm.
on the pie incident of the 70th? In other words, we shouldn't allow it to get lost.
Okay, well, I don't think the public will allow it to get lost at all. especially certain sections of the media, which I think is keeping a watching brief, so to speak, on the incident. So those media houses who are quote-unquote on watch for the nation, I am sure that they will, not lose sight of it or allow it to fall through the cracks. In addition to that, there are a number of stakeholders, parties who are interested on the matter, who will not allow that to happen either. So this is going to go on for quite some time. What has happened within recent times, however, as a result of the pile incident, if we may call it that, was it has brought the role of SOCU into greater focus. And I noticed, even though I didn't read the entire article, there's almost a full page article on the role of SOCU in this weekend's Starbuck News. I want to read that carefully because I want to see the direction that Starbuck News is taking on that matter, because we have issued from time to time statements on this subject, and as far as we are concerned, and as far as we heard in the Parliament, Mr. Harman stating that SOCU is going to the police force. He says that it's going where it belongs, under the umbrella of the Guyana Police Force. This is wrong. Comrade, that is wrong. That had nothing to do with who set it up. Forget who set it up. Forget who set it up. The question is, what is its legal and rightful, lawful role? What is the legal and rightful role of SOCU? I did have a role, together with other players, in the establishment of SOCU, but it was never the intention for SOCU to be an appendage or an adjunct to the Guyana Police Force or the Criminal Investigation Department. So SOCU is really associated or affiliated to the FIU, the Financial Intelligence Unit, and the DPP. So we will speak and write more on this matter. I don't want to say more at this point in time. So let's keep that one not under wraps. Let's keep that pot boiling in the meantime. Yeah.
The party has not yet responded to
The who?
the party, the people party.
Uh-huh.
Has not yet responded to the forest allocation.
The what?
The forest allegation that Trotman had made, and the subsequent publishing of maps detailing forest allocations over the years.
Well, the party may not have formally responded to that matter that was raised by Mr. Trotman in the National Assembly, but you may have seen again in the Starbuck News. I didn't see Kaiser News carry anything. Yes. So that is the response. We support the letter written by Gail Teixeira, or signed by Gail Teixeira, on behalf of the opposition on the question of the on the question of the allegations made by Mr. Harman, made by Mr. Trotman, that we had given away all our forests and nothing is remaining, and even published some maps to that effect and so on. So a letter was written to the Norwegians on this matter because there's an agreement between Guyana and Norway on the subject. And that, I would think, would constitute the PPP's reply as part of the opposition in respect to that matter.
Norway has already sought information on land below beyond the 45 level.
All right, well, Norway has a right to ask questions and to make certain demands because there's an agreement.
Yes,
I don't know. The PPP hasn't gotten anything as yet. There's another, well, Zuri probably knows more than I do.
If I'm smiling for something else, Adam, not that.
There's another issue that I'd like to raise at this press conference. We have information, and don't ask me to give you the information, because just like you,
No, we didn't ask you the source. We want the information.
just like you protect your sources,
Yeah,
we protect our sources
give us the
too.
information.
right? The coalition government is engaged in an aggressive way in arm twisting a number of persons and companies to extract tributes from them to fulfill certain commitments, one of them being the Durban Park project. They are engaged very aggressively in arm twisting to extricate monies from individuals and companies to contribute to that. And at the end of this, we will want to know, a question will come most likely in the Parliament, how much money the state contributed to that, and how much money the so-called well-wishers contributed to that as well. Apart from that, they are aggressively pursuing the repossession of lands, repossession of core homes, and repossession of what we could describe as tools of trade of certain individuals in Guyana. And this aggressive actions on the part of the government is characterized by threats, bullying, and intimidating of those persons who they want to extract these tributes from. On the question of the local government elections, we have the disciplined forces voting on March the 8th. We are continuing to pursue with GCOM our concerns and reservations in respect to that. Our fundamental concern, however, is on the question of double voting by ranks associated with any one of the disciplined forces who are entitled to vote on that day. That is our bottom line. And that is what we'll be watching very carefully.
Sir, I mean, I deliberately wait till now when you would bring it up. You know the Kwame McCoy, Jason Abdullah matter there before the court.
They are? Huh? When are they before the court?
This morning, Kwame wear some bright red shirt to the court this morning.
They are or were?
Well, I know if it's were because I didn't know. But what's the reaction of the party to the fact that these two, if not members, these two ardent supporters have been fingered in violent crimes and appeared to have been getting protection from you as Home Affairs Minister, that these matters weren't investigated thoroughly during your tenure?
Comrade, you know, there are some journalists who have a way of twisting and spinning things and associating. You're trying to make me out to be another Gadraj? Well, this is what you are implying, that these people, these individuals had quote-unquote protection under my watch. Well, you have to bring the evidence to show that that was so. But again, I would like to refer to the practice that no one is guilty until, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. So the matter is now in the court. Let us wait and see what the court will pronounce on these matters.
So has the party got a position on the fact that these men were arrested?
If we have a position?
Yeah.
What do you mean by a position? They're arrested, that's a fact. What could we have on that?
Somebody, I think it was Anil and Zulfi, I think you was your statement which described it as...
Zulfi don't issue statements.
The party.
Huh?
The party is your statement.
Yeah, the party is your statement.
Yeah.
They describe it as political...
Prisoners.
There you go.
Yes, we insist that they are political prisoners. Mr. Kwame McCoy is a member of our Central Committee of the party. Mr. Jason Abdullah works at Freedom House. By virtue of their association with the PPP and the charges which we consider to be trumped up, the charges which we consider to be trumped up, right? That by its very nature makes what they are linked with political. Okay? So, let's wait and see what happens. The matter's in the courts. I don't like to pronounce an issue before the courts, but as I said, the general principle is everybody is innocent until proven guilty. And there must be no trial in the media on this matter.
What support is the party giving these men?
What support?
You're providing lawyers, you're helping them with their legal, whatever it is. What kind of support
The
are
party providing legal representation to them, as well as any other assistance that they may require. But for now, it's mainly legal representation.
Any other questions?
Yes. Yes, concerning the statement that you read with regards to the aggressive measures being taken in the probation.
They what?
Out in the public domain, people want to know to distinguish, for example, donations or tributes sought with regards to the urban lands, backlands project.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same as going after the co-homes. The authority with regards to the co-homes would be possibly from Mr. Scott, I don't want to sort of mention him, but Mr. Scott. Those who are aggressively pursuing donations for the urban park, which is out in London. And then there's a repossession of lands, which you rightly mentioned. And then there's a question of those developing areas where people may not have had the money to proceed to build. Don't you think it'd be a good thing for the party to clarify each one of these issues? Because what is happening, and this is coming back from the public, is that they're putting a blazon, 50th anniversary of Guyana's independence, and they're doing everything with regards to that. But in actual fact, the possession of co-homes has absolutely nothing to do with Guyana's independence. Repossession of lands has absolutely nothing to do with independence. But the Durban Backlands project has. I don't know how to react to that.
Well, I don't know if the Durban Park project started out with independence in mind. I'm not so sure about that, but even if it did, the question is the contributions in cash and kind that are being made from private individuals and companies to get that project moving. So that is a matter that we will be taking up at another level. And the question of the core homes, we have pronounced on that before. Certain party leaders have spoken on this matter already. And the PBP, at press statements here, we have also commented on the question of the lands that were, attempts were being made to repossess the lands in Region 5. We made a statement on that matter earlier. What we're saying is that what we're seeing is a pattern in the sense that the ruling party is using certain methods to get its way, to get projects done, to repossess core homes, and to repossess lands. And part of that method that is being used is arm twisting and also threats and intimidation of taking back people's lands, taking back core homes, that if you don't contribute, you know, you're not going to get contracts in the future and things like that.
Good.
One last thing. I noticed in today's Kaicho news, Mr. Ramjatan is making reference to a headline here which says no political control over overseas training for police. And Kaicho News said he was taking a jab at me. I don't know what that means. But there is this view that has been making the rounds for some time about Minister Rohi interfering in the affairs of the police force. I want to read a paragraph from my presentation to the annual officers conference that was held on from March 12th to the 14th, 2015, last year. This was the last conference I addressed of the police officers. And this is what I said, and this would be interesting for Kaicho News particularly. And let me quote. According to the Free Dictionary, interference means the act of or an instance of hindering, obstructing, or impeding the activities of someone or an organization. I go on. I would like the Guyana Police Force to document and send me, before May 11, 2015, instances of political interference in the operations of the Guyana Police Force, where the PVPC administration hindered, obstructed, or impeded actions of the police force, and in what areas. Save for the one instance which appeared recently in the Kaicho News, where it was alleged that there was political interference with respect to the deportation of a foreign national. What was amusing with this story was that the action by the police force to counter lawful order was described as an effort to rebuild trust in the force. Okay? So, at my last presentation at the Police Officers Conference on March, which was held from March 12 to 14, in a text written and presented, I asked the police force to document and send me before May the 11th, which is the date of the elections, instances of political interference in the operations of the force. You want to ask me if I received anything?
Well, I ain't shot short. It
Well, I mean, that's a typical journalistic question,
I know, but you know we would ask you, so you tell us, don't we?
right? And this was March the 12th. The election was held on May the 11th,
Right.
approximately 1 month in between the presentation and the,
2 months.
huh?
2 months,
Since
April to
August.
May. 2 months, but 2 months.
Good, quite a lengthy period of time. But to answer the question which you were contemplating asking me,
I like this way.
right? To answer the question which you were contemplating asking, no, no such information was ever sent to me.
That information being provided to you, is that the correct channel, or would it be the police?
Well, yes.
What? No, I asked for them to give it to me.
Yes.
They were accusing me of interfering. There were certain officers in the force, like Ram Narayan, who kept accusing me of interfering in the force. I can say that now because I'm no longer the Minister of Home Affairs. Right? He kept accusing me of intruding in the police force activities. Plus what was being fueled from outside by sections of the media. And in my last presentation to the force, I asked them to give me this information. They never did. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Good.